Honorable Mayor Schoenheider.
Here.
Co-presiding mayor for a day, Tripp Pierce.
Here.
Alderman Novit.
Here.
Alderman Waldeck.
Here.
Alderman Moore.
Here.
Alderman Pandeleon.
Here.
Alderman Tack.
Here.
Alderman Reisenberg is absent. Alderman Palmer.
Here.
Alderman Edelman.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Biddy. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. The first item on the agenda tonight is comments by mayor, and it is my absolute privilege and honor tonight to introduce Tripp Pierce, who is tonight's, actually this year's mayor for a day. Tripp's a 5th grade student at Deerpath. He's already told me he wants my job, and I already told him he could have it. So we are delighted. He's going to help me run the meeting tonight, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job, and you'll see him again in 2 weeks, and you won't see me. Next item on the agenda, the Red Ribbon Proclamation and Red Ribbon 5K Race. Could I ask Tripp to read the resolution, please?
Proclamation. Whereas children face decisions about using alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs as early as their elementary school years, and whereas parents, teachers, and community leaders play an important role in providing positive activities which will give youth the opportunity to choose healthy lifestyles, and whereas the most precious resource we have and our future leaders are the children in our community, and whereas the City of Lake Forest, Lead, Croya, and our local schools are taking an active role in building assets in our youth and helping teach them about positive decision making. Now therefore, I, Tripp Pierce, as mayor for a day in the City of Lake Forest, do hereby proclaim the week of October 21st, October 25th, 2013 to be Red Ribbon Week in Lake Forest, Illinois, and urge all citizens to do what they can to help our youth make a commitment to a drug-free life.
Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Very well done, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Is Andy Duran here? I don't see Andy. Oh. All right, come on up.
I hope you all forgive me. This is like the first time I've been in front of a podium in probably 10 years. You did a nice job, Tripp.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for supporting the Red Ribbon Week. My name is Joy Marquis, and I'm the new Director of Community Relations and Development for LEAD. On behalf of our organization and the Speak Up Coalition, we're happy to see our community participate in this event. As you know, our goal is to educate parents and youth about the risks associated with underage drug and alcohol abuse. The Red Ribbon campaign was started when DEA agent Kiki Camarena was murdered in Mexico City in 1985. His death began a continuing tradition of displaying red ribbons as a symbol of intolerance towards the use of drugs. The Red Ribbon Week is always celebrated at the end of October. As you've probably seen already, ribbons have been tied around the community to show our support for the Red Ribbon campaign. In addition, many of the schools have students participating in different activities to learn how to make healthy lifestyle choices. Earlier today, Lake Forest High School athletes visited the Lake Bluff Elementary School and conducted a school-wide assembly on making good choices. The assembly was created by LEAD and became a reality with the generous support of Lake Forest High School and Lake Bluff Elementary School. In addition to these activities, on November 2nd, LEAD will host its annual Red Ribbon Race. This is the race's 6th year, and we anticipate having more than 400 people attend. In conjunction with the race, we will also host the Taste of Wellness Fair, which highlights community organizations and small businesses that are dedicated to the health and well-being of people in our communities. And lastly, on November 6th, LEAD brings in its keynote parent university speaker, Bruce Feiler, at the Gorton Center at 7 p.m. Mr. Feiler, the New York Times bestselling author of Secrets of Happy Families, will speak on parenting in the 21st century. Besides writing, Mr. Filer is a nationally known speaker who regularly participates in the TED Talks program. Again, we thank you for your support of our organization and our cause. Have a great Red Ribbon Week. Thank you.
Joy, thank you very much. It certainly leads a terrific organization. It's great to have you in the community and do the great things that you do for our young people, so thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda, Trip.
Appointments by the mayor. Task force to shared, name of member Dan Jessica and Peter Schaffer. The appointment and board is 4 and 3.
Okay, could I ask council for a motion to approve the 2 members on the Shared Opportunities Board relative to Parks and Rec?
And I'll move to approve the 2 appointments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. I did want to mention one other thing before the last item under Mayor's agenda. As we've talked about in the past, and I think we talked about at length over the last month or so in the last council meeting, the city is exploring the idea of doing a consolidated 911 dispatch. So in other words, putting all of the 911 services for police and fire with multiple communities together in one location. It's a significant savings for the community. It certainly is a different way of doing things. Other communities have done it in the past. This would be certainly something new for Lake Forest and some of the surrounding communities that would join us. I'd like to ask the residents of the community to please provide us their input. We've set up an area on the website so you can provide feedback and input. I've already received, just in the last day, 3 or 4 calls and comments from residents, both negative and positively. So I would ask the community as a whole to please provide your input. It's an important topic for us. It's an important concept. It not only is a significant money saver, hundreds of thousands of dollars over a certain period of time, but it certainly does change a little bit of how we dispatch our police and fire and our emergency services vehicles. So please give your input, and we'd all certainly appreciate hearing from you.
One thing you might want to mention is part and parcel of that is the question about whether there should be somebody, not necessarily a dispatcher, but somebody there at the police station 24/7, to take parking tickets or do things, or maybe, get other police to come to an emergency, or should we have a television camera there? But that's an issue too.
Great, thanks, Bob. Okay, next item on the agenda. Let's see here about that.
We're going to report on the golf tournament at Conway Golf Club.
Great, and I'd like to introduce Vince Pellegrino, Vice President of the Western Golf Association, and Todd Marsh, General Manager, Conway Farms Golf Club. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here tonight. Certainly, the BMW Championship held last month in September at Conway Farms. I'd love to report on the championship and talk a little bit about the Western Golf Association and the Evan Scholars Foundation, which was the beneficiary of the championship. The tournament dates, as many of you know, was September 9 through 15, and I put /16 because it wasn't expected to go into an 8th day, but the tournament did due to weather, so it was through the 16th. There were many highlights of championship week, starting with if you were out there Monday, Tuesday, record high temperatures early in the week, frost later in the week. We had Jim Furyk shoot a record tying 59 on Friday. Hunter Mahan getting a hole-in-one on Saturday of the championship, and as a result, BMW donating $100,000 to the Evan Scholars Foundation, which is, in our minds, the sole purpose of hosting the championship is to raise money and awareness for the Evan Scholars Foundation, and that certainly contributed to it. What contributed to a Monday finish was over the course of the Sunday, having an 1.5 inches of rain, and I think probably more after Sunday evening to have a Monday finish, which is I guess on the PGA Tour this year was pretty frequent, but in my tenure of the championship was pretty infrequent. And certainly the biggest highlight I think for Lake Forest was to be recognized on a worldwide stage all week of the championship, and whether it was Golf Channel or network coverage on NBC over the weekend, and then again Golf Channel on Monday. Certainly Lake Forest was highlighted throughout the weekend. We had a great champion, 10-time PGA Tour winner Zach Johnson, shot 16 under for the week to win the 110th championship conducted by the Western Golf Association. Certainly from an attendance perspective, it was a successful championship. We had 134,000 people show up throughout the course of the weekend Monday. I think what's amazing about the championship is the number of people that contributed to the success, and including the volunteers. Certainly we couldn't make the championship happen or contribute the dollars that we do to the Evans Scholars Foundation without the volunteers. The over 1,700 volunteers that we had from the championship from 23 different states and 2 countries. The local golf clubs that participated in the championship were Knollwood, Indian Hill, Exmoor Country Club, Skokie, Olympia Fields, Park Ridge, Sunset Ridge, and Onwensia were just a few of the clubs that contributed their time and efforts that week. And local restaurants and vendors got involved in the championship as well, from Sullivan's and Fleming's to Eddie Merlot's and Zabatista, Mickey Finn's, Bob Chin's, U.S. Foods, and Pepsi, contributed to the championship week. But I think the big winner of the championship this year was the Evans Scholars Foundation. We're still tallying the amount of money raised for the tournament's charity. We're expecting to be over $2.5 million for the Evans Scholars Foundation, but certainly that hole-in-one by Hunter Mahan contributed to that effect. We had a great kickoff event early in the week on Tuesday at Great America, where Rory McIlroy and Gary Woodland kicked off the tournament by driving one of BMW's new i3 electric cars that week, and BMW donated more money to the Evans Scholars Foundation as a result of the players' efforts. As you may have seen on the weekend telecast, Luke Donald did a public service announcement for the Evans Scholars Foundation that again increased the awareness of our program, which I think is certainly a highlight of Championship Week. Some of the items from that I just wanted to recognize was certainly contributed to the what we see as a success of the tournament. Was all the meetings that the Lake Forest staff put forth with helping us run and conduct the championship. These meetings started well over a year in advance of the championship. We had a couple meetings with several homeowners in the areas. I think those were provided beneficial communication to the neighborhood, and certainly the support that we received from the Lake Forest Police Department and the fire department they went above and beyond to help the tournament and protect the safety of all the spectators that attended the championship. Public Works, again, with the rain that we experienced over the weekend on Sunday, certainly lent a hand and were very supportive throughout the entire process, as well as permitting. And I can tell you the working with Lake Forest to get the proper permits to host a championship, I think it worked very well, and having the fire inspectors at the championship, I would say closer to the tournament on a daily basis, but leading up to it on a weekly basis to make sure everybody was safe at the championship was also very important to us to make sure that we had a successful championship inside the ropes. But the corporate and fan support that we received, having 130-something thousand people attend the championship, was tremendous. Certainly exceeded our expectations for the event, and one of the bigger championships we've ever had in the Chicagoland area, so we're really proud of that. But this corporate support and the support we received from the neighboring communities, whether it was Mattawa or Lincolnshire, certainly Lake County as a whole was very supportive of the championship and helping us conduct the competition. I would say the player feedback from the event, from the golf course perspective, is that they enjoyed it. I know two people that did. Jim Furyk, who shot a 59, and Zach Johnson, who won the championship, enjoyed the golf course. But I think Conway Farms and Todd can certainly speak to this after I give my report. The players thoroughly enjoyed the hospitality received by the Lake Forest community and from Conway Farms. We know that no event, and certainly not this event, goes without inconveniences for some of the neighbors and the communities. I know certainly there's obviously some things that we need to improve on for the championship, not only for next year when we host the championship in Denver, but down the road when we do return to Chicago. Certainly we had some issues with traffic and parking and handicap accessibility on the golf course, which we're making a priority for in the future. But all things that are great learnings for us to make the championship even better in the future. So I just wanted to come here tonight to thank everybody and thank the council for their support. Thank the city and the staff for all their support of the championship, and we appreciate everything that they've done for the Evan Scholars Foundation as a result. I don't know if Todd wants to.
Well, I'll start. Well, good evening. Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Governors of Conway Farms Golf Club, the members and its staff, we cannot thank the City Council, the city residents, the city staff of Lake Forest for just the overwhelming support and guidance that you showed Conway Farms Golf Club to host this championship. It was really an unbelievable team effort that the success lies with all of us, and we just want to give our appreciation and thank you for your full support. Some of the exciting things about the championship, certainly from TV, NBC, and Golf Channel, as Vince said, I thought Conway Farms and Lake Forest had some great views from the blimp. I thought the city looked great, and Saturday and Friday were pretty magical out there with 40,000 people, and I thought those views really showcased the community that we all work or live in. So I think that was a great part of it. For those of you that volunteered or helped or came as a spectator, hopefully you had memories that last a lifetime. There were some exciting things, as Vince said. I'm going to end my report on some interesting facts, but prior to that, as Vince just said, there's certain improvements that we learned as a club that we certainly would do differently given another opportunity or, future events down the road, whichever they may be. But certainly we've been meeting with not only volunteers and our committee as a staff and the WGA, but we're going to have an open forum, open house on November 5th, which is Tuesday night at Conway Farms for the neighbors around the club. Conway Farms residents, Amberley Woods, Stonebridge, Saunders Road, Conway Road, and have a 2-hour open house where they'll come in and they can speak to Conway Farms representatives, myself and others, WGA representatives, or city officials. And we certainly are looking for that feedback from the homeowners and different residents on things that we can improve from security or entering the championship or the pre-tournament setup during championship week or the teardown after that. It's important that we make sure that we listen and that we improve on those things. But overall, we really were pleased with the championship. And as Vince said, to get 134,000 to the community, I think was fantastic. The golf course, some of the fun facts, 70.8 was the average score. Conway Farms par is 71. We had 28 players were over par, 5 were even par, and I think 32 or so were under par. So the course certainly held its own. Holes number 5 and 13 were the highest average, 4.24. All the par 3s played actually over par. All the par 5s, not surprisingly, were under par. Just some fun facts. There was 18 eagles, a hole-in-one in practice, 1,012 birdies, 764 bogeys, 88 double bogeys, and then 17 others. So, it was truly a lot of, we had 59 to 8, beat Rory McIlroy by 17 shots on Friday. So the golf course had a lot of different angles to it. I'm biased to the winner, being from Iowa. Zach Johnson obviously had a great week. Of the 70 players, there was 11 countries represented in 21 states. Vince talked about, the volunteer support. And on behalf of the club, it's just a privilege to be here tonight. Thank you. We'll certainly answer any questions, but it could not have been done without all of you and the city staff was fantastic. They were really professionals, and you have a great team, and it's why the city is as good as it is. Thank you.
Any questions for Todd or Vince?
I do. The 132,000 attendance, how does that compare to the average attendance the last 5 years at other venues?
At Crooked Stick, we had 147. At Cog Hill in 2011, it was closer to 50,000 attendees, so it certainly was a big improvement from 2011. We did have some weather in 11, but it's a pretty significant jump.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Saturday, I volunteered, and it was an overwhelming day. I was serving hot dogs at holes 19 and or 18 and 9, and truly, I think I served about 1,000 hot dogs. The crowd was overwhelming, and I was exhausted. Went home and turned on the television, and Lake Forest was on national television. It was overwhelming just to be part of it, and yeah, kind of the congratulations that I have for you, and I was thrilled to be part of the event, is just having the opportunity come up and seizing that opportunity and bringing it to Lake Forest. It was a great event. I truly hope it happens again. We'll refine it, but it was overwhelming. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity we might have again. So just thank you.
No,
Thank
thanks
you.
for your support. We appreciate it.
Lovell's had their best, week since their opening week, and some of the other restaurants, I know I've talked to Mark Westcott at the Market House, and he was very happy with some of the private parties. So we're certainly learned some things that we do differently. Some of the facts, we served just in one day, just in the member tent, we served 1,700 hamburgers. So, it was crazy the amount of volume we went through, but we appreciate it. That was a nice comment.
Bob?
Couple of quick follow-up questions, and maybe to piggyback on some of the points that Vince and Todd made. I think first and foremost we have to keep in mind, and actually picking up on Alderman Novitz's point, is it was really nice to see how the community embraced the event, whether it was through volunteers, whether it was through spectators. There was just a buzz the whole week that the event was going on. Sometimes the buzz wasn't so positive, like Saturday afternoon when people wanted to leave and the lines were a little long. But for the most part, I think everybody was just very excited about the spotlight that shone on Lake Forest, and particularly on Friday and Saturday, as Todd said. It was spectacular, the views from the blimp and so forth. And so I think from that standpoint, it was extremely positive. As I told the city staff afterwards, one of the other reasons that I really was looking forward to this event coming into Lake Forest is that we're very proud of our city employees and the jobs that they all do. They're all very talented and very good at what they do. But we wanted to challenge them. We really wanted to push them, and more importantly, see how the various departments would interact and work with each other, because this was, while it wasn't a crisis, it was sort of a crisis situation, having 130,000 people within your community. And to see, not just police and fire work together, but public works work with police, and fire work with Parks and Rec, and all the other different departments working together hand in hand to help pull this thing off, I think was magical, as somebody said, from the standpoint that I think it really showed the city staff what they could do when they were really pushed. I would be remiss if I didn't ask two people to come forward, and Carl and Kevin, would you guys come forward? Because I think from day one, our biggest concern was always public health and safety, both of the spectators, the residents, anybody that was there. And these two gentlemen were either by, I don't think it was by choice, I think they drew the short straw, was basically put involved of coming up with a plan, both from the police side as well as the EMS fire side, as to how we were going to deal with this entire, and it wasn't just a week from their standpoint, it was roughly almost 10 days of activity, the setup and the extra day of the tournament, that they had to be not only on site, but coordinating not just city staff, but we had people from multiple departments, both on police and fire side, making sure everything was going smoothly, starting at 5 a.m., going till 8 or 9 o'clock every night, debriefing, talking about what went right, what went wrong. We had only one incident, knock on wood, that we actually had to make an arrest out at the facility. And I'm happy to say that I think the most critical transports that we had were actually bee stings that were going on out there. And so I think their hard work and effort and their pre-planning really helped pay off in terms of making sure that this went as smoothly as possible. And I think just sort of one story to just show you sort of the way that these people, and not just our employees, but everybody that was working out there would go above and beyond is, you know, they would have their carts out there on the course, and there were many times they saw people trying to navigate around the course that quite frankly should have been sitting in a stand. They were either old or somehow impaired, and we ended up transporting a lot of people around the course in golf carts or giving them water if it was clear that they needed water or some other nourishment, so that we didn't have a bigger problem down the road. So I think you know, these two gentlemen deserve an awful lot of credit for the planning the event, and I think the two chiefs would also tell you that with all the other both fire and police personnel that came to the site that saw the command post, that were thoroughly impressed with the way that it was coordinated and how a police and fire department can work together and coordinate. They're probably going to be on the talking circuit for the next year about how this can be done. So they both deserve huge credit from the community and from everybody else involved. So thank you. Appreciate it. I don't know, did either one of you want to say anything? No?
I will say, though, Bob, to reemphasize that, the PGA Tour has contacted us. I mean, this what those guys did and the entire staff is a best practice on PGA Tour, and actually some of the things that they implemented are now standard policies tour-wide. So certainly kudos to the police and fire departments.
And that's after only our first attempt at this, too, which is fairly impressive. The other thing I would just touch on very quickly, I think, Susan, can you put the chart up on the financials? I know two questions that have come up, and I know all of you have been asked, is sort of financially, what did this mean to the city? And then two, how did it impact our businesses? And I think anecdotally, and maybe Todd might be able to address this, what we learned was proximity meant so much. Because of the proximity of the course, there were a lot of people that went to the tournament, that ate at the tournament, that bought souvenirs at the tournament, but then got in their car and went home. Those restaurants and businesses that tended to be closer to Conway did better than others, unless, as Todd mentioned, like the Market House. They had some private parties. They actually made a concerted effort to try and reach out and to engage, if you will, the participants and people involved with BMW to come to their establishment and so forth. And I think that while we learned, certainly as a city, how to deal with an event like that, I hope that the businesses will also learn that you just can't sort of open your doors and expect that the golfers or the participants are going to show up because you know, it's just not the nature of who they are in terms of they're not coming to Lake Forest to go and spend 6 or 7 hours at a golf tournament and then shop for 4 hours in downtown Lake Forest. That's different. I think that's an unrealistic expectation. But having said that, and I think Susan Banks would mention this, is that we really tried to get information out about Lake Forest, recognizing that there was going to be a lot of people coming here, some for the very first time. And while they may not stay and shop or eat at our restaurants today, hopefully they will come back shortly. Hopefully their experience here was very positive, and we will see that over a longer period of time of them coming back. The financials that are on the screen right there now are, I want to emphasize, preliminary, because we're still getting both some revenue and expense information in. As I said, this was a first-time experience for us, and so if anything, we probably ended up having more manpower allocated to the event than we would need to if it was to come back in the future. And also some of the costs that are included in there are some costs that you could argue whether they're directly BMW costs or not. For example, we had installed TV monitors in the 2 train stations so that we could run information about Lake Forest and information. We're going to keep those in the 2 train stations. We're going to keep using them. And so some of these costs were, I'll call them one-time capital costs. We had to do some things, I think you remember, to the traffic signals out on Route 60 so that they could be manually controlled. But even with that, we it appears that under preliminary numbers that we definitely broke even and made a little, but I would also emphasize we did not go into this to make up money. We looked at this as a community event, and our goal was to at least just break even, which we were able to do at that from that standpoint. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have about either the financials or from the impact on businesses, but I think it was a learning experience for everybody, and I think that we certainly held our own from a financial standpoint, and I think we could even do better if the event were to return to Lake Forest in a few years.
Any other questions? Just Vince and Todd, certainly on behalf of the community, thank you. I want to thank BMW, thank the PGA Tour, and certainly thank the Western Golf Association for the opportunity to showcase the community. We're incredibly proud of how it all worked out. Enough's been said, but I was incredibly proud of our staff. And we certainly were very proud to be associated with such a great group as the Evans Scholars Foundation. So thank you very much. We are excited about what happened, and hopefully we'll see you back. Thanks very much. All right, next item on the agenda.
Yes for comments by city manager.
Mr. Kiley?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor and members of the City Council. This evening, actually two items under my report, one that isn't on the agenda. I hope that not this past weekend, but the weekend before, you were able to go out to Elua to the native tree sale that they had out there. It was co-hosted by the City of Lake Forest and Lake Forest Open Lands, and this was really a follow-up to an event, community engagement event that was hosted by Alderman Edelman and others. And the good news was that it was a huge success. The bad news was when I showed up at 10 o'clock, there wasn't a lot of material left. But I think it was so successful that they are planning to do it again. And I think the other real positive thing, well, this may be a negative and a positive. There's a lot of people there who are there to replace ash trees, but they're learning that they want to replace them with something that is native. And so they have really relied upon both Lake Forest Open Lands expertise as well as Peter Gordon and our Forestry Department's expertise as to what to plant, what would be appropriate depending on where on their property and so forth. So it was a real, very successful event. I think in a matter of about an hour and a half, they sold over 150 trees, and probably could have sold more if they had a greater inventory out there. So that was very successful. The second item that is on the agenda, and this goes back to a editorial that was in the Chicago Tribune in early September titled Take Back the State. And the premise of the context of the article was that were there opportunities in the state of Illinois to make elections more competitive and to try and make the State House, I think, more responsive to the voters and taxpayers of Illinois. The subject was very apropos for the city of Lake Forest because it was a conversation that was held during the city's strategic planning exercise when we were talking about what is going to be the impact of the state on the city of Lake Forest, both financially and in other respects, and make it even more challenging for us to meet some of our needs and goals as we went forward in the community. We're all certainly well aware of the challenges in Springfield and more importantly the pressures that they place on local governments, and we talked earlier this evening at the Finance Committee about some of those challenges and the volatility of some of those revenue sources like the income tax and the motor fuel tax and so forth. And importantly, how do we as a community position ourselves so that we are financially independent to the extent that we can from the state of Illinois, just simply because they are such a volatile source of revenue for the city. One of the initiatives that was referenced in the article had to do with redistricting reform, and a nonpartisan statewide coalition called the Yes for Independent Maps, and the work that they're doing to try and introduce a constitutional amendment on the November 2014 ballot that would basically take the job of drawing the new districts every 10 years away from politicians and put it in a nonpartisan commission that would deal with this. Importantly, I want to stress that this is not an issue that the city of Lake Forest can tackle on its own. But I think that what the city of Lake Forest can do, much like we did with pension reform back in the early 2000s, is to encourage a dialogue within various municipalities throughout the state to try and understand what this issue is, how it may impact us both positively and negatively, and then make a determination if there's any leadership role that we can take that would benefit certainly our residents long term. So with that, let me introduce the campaign manager for the Yes for Independent Maps, Michael Kolez. Michael is here this evening to present to you what the campaign is all about and then answer any questions that the alderman might have. So Michael?
Thank you very much for your time. I'll try to be brief so I can leave enough time for questions to get into the details of the measure, the campaign, anything we'd like to talk about. You know, like the city manager said, my initiative, the initiative that this coalition is working towards, is to implement a fair, transparent, nonpartisan redistricting process for state house and state senate seats in Illinois. Right now, despite the political party, and we see this all over the country, politicians draw maps to reward or to punish friends and foes, period. Democrats have done it, Republicans have done it both in this state. So it's really a bipartisan issue that they can join on, and we saw Mayor Emanuel last week comment on the detriment of and the consequences of redistricting at Chicago Ideas Week Forum. So we know that there's bipartisan support for this. So right now what my campaign is doing is we're traveling the state, we're building political coalitions, we're working to gather the signatures necessary to place this ballot initiative on the November 2014 ballot. Right now we need 300,000 signatures by May 4th to place this on the ballot. If implemented, it would take the power away from political leaders to draw state house and state senate maps, and it would put it in the hands of an 11-member independent redistricting commission that would be assembled once every 10 years right after the census. The commission would be made up of 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 3 independents. In order to pass any map, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 2 independents would have to vote in favor of it. If you're a politician, my apologies, or a state employee or a lobbyist, state or federal, or if you live under the same roof as an elected official, you cannot serve on this commission. And for a period of 10 years afterwards, you cannot run for state office. So we feel like the coalition that built this amendment worked really hard to try to take politics out of this, to make it as fair and independent and as transparent as possible. For example, any 2 commissioners meeting, whether they're sending a text or an email, that's an open meeting and anyone can see it. So there's, they require notice for meetings. They need to tour the state in every judicial district before and after maps are drawn to take public input. And this is not the kind of meeting where they put out a press release at 4:15 and they have a meeting at 5 o'clock at a location you can't find. This is actual openness and accountability. Our amendment is heavily modeled off the California amendment that passed in 2008. We actually saw a really good New York Times article over the weekend that showcased the reforms that California took, and it talked about Sacramento before this initiative and after this initiative, and it talked about the gridlock that Sacramento faced, the budget problems, and then afterwards it talked about the movement of legislation, regardless of political ideology, the movement of legislation, the new composition of the state house, the look of maps that were drawn more fair to keep communities of interest, to follow municipal, local government boundaries. So with that, I can take any questions that folks might have, and I can get into as much of the weeds as you'd like.
Any questions for Michael on this?
Has this been done anywhere else? You said California has.
So
did it
California-
Same model as you're proposing?
California is a almost identical model. The coalition that was working on this ballot initiative before the campaign started spent about 2 years studying the California model, figuring out how it worked and what was wrong with it, and then taking that and really crafting it to the unique requirements that the Illinois Constitution has. So, states like Arizona has an independent commission. Iowa has a form of an independent commission. They used bureaucrats to actually staff it, so it's not as completely independent as ours is. Then states like Florida passed it a few years ago. States like New Jersey has it. They tried to do this in Ohio last year, and it failed at the ballot box. But there's a whole bunch of other states across the country that are trying to work towards something like this. North Carolina comes to mind, Wisconsin, Indiana.
So is this something typically passed by a voter referendum of the populace at large?
Correct.
As opposed to having legislation passed?
Correct. Yeah.
Do we have that mechanism in Illinois?
Yes. That's exactly what this will be. This will be a ballot measure that'll be voted on by the population.
Thank you.
It will not affect congressional districts. Congressional district redistricting reform would have to happen through legislation simply because of the way the Constitution is structured, state constitution. Other questions?
Any other questions for Michael? Great. Michael, thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, next item.
Comments by council members? Oh, Finance Committee?
Actually, I do have a quick comment, and it's just fulfilling a promise that I made yesterday when I was cutting the lawn. I was stopped by a neighbor of mine, and as he was on the way back from the state middle school, junior high school, girls cross-country track meet, he was very proud to inform me that Deerpath Middle School came in first in the state for girls cross-country, and this is the first time that apparently that a middle school or junior high school team from Lake Forest has won a state championship. So it's an event, kind of like Conway in a different way, a success for the community. But I wanted to fulfill a promise, and actually it's a promise I would have happily mentioned anyway. But congratulations to them. Cross country is a wondrous sport because old guys like me who played hockey at one point in time, you could get a lucky goal, but if you're a cross-country runner, it's just pure skill. They did wonderfully. That's it.
That's great. Thank you very much. George?
The Finance Committee this evening reviewed the 2013 fiscal year Treasurer's Report. The Council is being asked tonight to acknowledge receipt of this report. Pursuant to Illinois statute, the Treasurer's Report must be filed with the city clerk, the county clerk, and published in a Lake Forest newspaper within 6 months after the end of each fiscal year. The report will be published in the October 24th, 2013 edition of the Lake Forester, and a copy of the report has been distributed to both the Finance Committee and the City Council. So council action would be to acknowledge receipt of the fiscal year 2013 Treasurer's Report. And I don't know if that's something we need to vote on or, okay.
Do you need a motion?
So I'd need a motion, or we would need a motion to acknowledge receipt of the fiscal year. Actually, I guess I can make that motion, right?
You can.
So I hereby move to that the City Council acknowledge receipt of the fiscal year 2013 Treasurer's Report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Any other comments by council members?
One comment, I'd like to thank everybody who attended the Community Engagement Forum on ravines. I think we set attendance records. All of the speakers were excellent, and it was really quite educational. I encourage you to watch it on video if you get a chance.
Can I plug the upcoming one in November on disputes with neighbors? I know it's not a big issue in this community, but.
Are you serious?
Yeah, talk about breaking attendance records. We will break attendance records and probably windows and other things.
Wow. Any other comments by council? If not, next item.
Opportunity for citizens to address the city council on non-agenda items.
Anyone care to address the council on a non-agenda item this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item.
Items for omnibus vote consideration.
Very good. I'll read these. There are 3 of them. If any council member would like to take them separately, we certainly can. If not, we'll ask for roll call vote at the end. Item number 1, approval of the October 7, 2013 City Council minutes. Item number 2, resolution of sympathy for Lieutenant Hagedorn. And item number 3, approval to purchase new planimetric data for GIS mapping. Any item to be taken separately?
Can we just talk about 3 for a second, not necessarily take it separately? The planimetric data for GIS mapping, I'm a little familiar with it at the county level. I use Lake County's GIS mapping online fairly frequently. In fact, they just upgraded theirs, probably at significant expense. In this instance, our data dates back to 1998. And from what I read here, it's essentially topography mapping. And I question, I need someone to convince me that we need to spend $47,000. Because as we sat here this evening looking to enhance revenues from water fees and capital improvements and tax rate, and I mean, we're like trying to be as fiscally smart as we can. Do we need to spend $47,000 on topographical information that probably hasn't changed a lot in 15 years? And if it did say in the report that it doesn't always reconcile with what you find in the field, but how often is that, and is it worth $47,000 to us?
Good evening. Yes, I believe it is. It's not just what we find in the field in Lake Forest here, it's being on the same datum, if you will, as the county, the state, FEMA, all the other agencies that we deal with for stormwater issues, flooding issues, and things like that. As far as the topography, there are a lot of changes based on the development that's happened since 1998. All the developments since that time changed the topography in the city, improvements to widening of roads, things like that. Anything that was done changes that. So when we deal with the other agencies, or we're dealing with a resident who has a flooding issue, residents that are trying to get flood certificates from FEMA, that information doesn't match. And we are one of the last communities left. As you said, the county updated theirs. They flew the LiDAR 2 years ago, and I was at a briefing about 6 months ago with them, and they said it's just amazing, not just because it's new data, but it's new technology. And the differences are overwhelming when you look at what you have on a 1998 technology and that datum, and then when you put it into the new one.
Is this just a tool, or is there any interactive ability for citizens to, to use it? I mean, I own some rural property, so I'm always going on the interactive GIS sites and finding out where soil compositions are and where zoning is and all the different overlays and layers that you can use.
It's a part of the GIS that the map office that anybody would have access to. Correct?
So does this upgrade help a local? Oh, so the data here will be upgraded to which website could a resident?
To the
access?
Lake Forest website, there's a link.
There's
to
an
map
interactive
office. Yes,
link
sir.
on the. Okay.
Correct.
Bob, so this purchase, will it carry us another 15 years foreseeably? We've come 15
Based
years
on-
with the old database.
I'd like to say yes, 10 years, 15 years, because I don't see that much more development like we had in the last 20 years in Lake Forest. The only thing I can't answer to is what's going to happen with technology and mapping. But certainly it'll get us up to today's technology and put us in line with the other communities in the consortium and the other agencies that we deal with.
But you feel strongly it's beneficial for us
Yes,
to
I do.
invest these funds?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing I would add, I think to Alderman Edelman's question, and this isn't going to necessarily make you feel better, but as Bob knows, prior to joining the GIS consortium, 5 years ago, our GIS department was looking to do this on their own, and it would have cost us about $200,000, I think, at that time. And so in this case, it's much more cost-effective because they're doing a wider area in multiple communities, and that's what's brought the cost per community down significantly. So it has been outdated, I guess is my point, for probably a good 5 to 10 years already that we've held off before waiting for the GIS consortium group to do this.
Any other comments? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the omnibus. Vic?
Mr. Mayor, I just would note on page 31 of the packet, there was a minor correction in the minutes, so if it could be as corrected.
Okay. Have a motion to approve as corrected.
Moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Biddy.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Waldeck. Aye. Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderman Pandeleon.
Aye.
Alderman Tack.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
Alderman Edelman.
Aye.
7 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you very much, Biddy. Next item on the agenda,
Ordinances.
any ordinances for consideration this evening? Hearing none.
New business.
Any new business? No new business.
Additional items for council discussion.
Any additional items for council discussion? I do have one. I want to congratulate Mayor Pierce for doing a wonderful job tonight. Couldn't have been prouder. Let's give him a hand. You are certainly welcome back anytime. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
And unless anyone has anything else, would you like to ask for a motion to adjourn?
Sure. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And say all those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
We need to clap.